Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening to Mr. Vice Chairman and the members of the council. For the record, my name is State Representative Jamie Foster, and I represent the towns of East Windsor, Ellington, and Vernon. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today regarding the proposed expansion to the gravel pit solar project under the reopened docket 492A. I have submitted a significantly more detailed written testimony for the record, but I want to summarize several key concerns. And I want to point out, after the audience that I've followed, I think it's important to note that this opposition of this singular expansion does not reflect a general sentiment of opposition of union-employed grid-scale solars in other areas, just specifically applying to this one project. This hearing is about a project that's already been built and is operating, one that our community engaged with extensively when it was first approved in 2021, and is in context of several other projects that are approved and many more large ones pending that have been raised as concerns by this community. These processes are exhaustive, and residents, local officials, and landowners, once a decision is made, accept the outcome as final. To now consider an expansion of a project that's bigger than most of the other projects that are cited independently, after years of disruption and burden, sends a troubling message to our community that even completed projects are never truly settled. East Windsor has done its part many times over. Our town hosts more utility-scale solar than any other municipality in the state. The cumulative impacts have been profound. Productive farmland has been converted, our tax base has been reduced, and municipal staff are tied up in ongoing disputes over late or delinquent tax payments from developers, including this one, and fire resources to respond to brush fires on sites. Because many of these facilities were approved before the legislature adopted the uniform capacity tax, this council failed to consider the significant economic disruption that this community faces, and this has left local governments to shoulder uncertainty and lost revenue in a general stance of the Siting Council of citing and forgetting the impacts that are happening in the community. The existing gravel pit solar site has been poorly maintained. Vegetation has been neglected, creating an eyesore and a safety hazard. This is not my opinion. This is a complaint I routinely get in my state rep inbox and pass along to the lobbyists who represent this firm. The brush fire at the site required a full emergency response, draining already sparse municipal resources, and our volunteer fire department and emergency crews should not have to absorb the cost of responding to problems that stem from an inadequate site management by well-resourced corporations. Residents have been told, sometimes explicitly, that challenging these arrangements could jeopardize future investments or bringing unwanted attention to the town, which is why it was important earlier today when the town referenced the expansion for Saltbox Solar, because we have been told that we will likely see one or the other, and it's unlikely that we'll be able to block both. That kind of pressure is unfair. It discourages civic participation and makes communities that feel like they must quietly bear the burden while the large-scale projects line up and continue to get passed and approved despite mounting local opposition. I also want to express serious concern about today's proceedings. There's a Connecticut Siting Council member who is excluded from participation today. He's a constituent of mine and duly appointed to this council by the Speaker of the House. He was excluded from participation, and I find this exclusion deeply troubling and inconsistent with the principles of fairness and transparency that should guide this body. In my review of the council's regulations and governing statutes, it remains unclear why there would be a conflict that would be sustained by statute or regulation that would exclude his participation. Even more troubling is that a developer is offered the opportunity to request a member's disqualification simply because they expect there might be a concern of support or the perception of a quandary. That is further evidence of the incredible unbalance and influence that developers are able to wield before this council. Every duly appointed member deserves the right to participate fully, especially when decisions of such consequence for local communities are at stake. For all these reasons, and for the significant undue burden my community has already felt under the multiple solar projects that have already been cited by this council and then promptly forgotten and not supported, I urge the council to deny approval of this expansion. And if any modifications are deemed necessary, they should be narrowly limited to true technical corrections and not increase the project's footprint or deepen its environmental or visual impacts. And I want to highlight here that it should not in any way further the economic burden that my community is already shouldering. East Windsor has supported Connecticut's renewable energy goals in good faith. We have supported stewardship of well-paying union jobs in these projects, but we cannot continue to do so at the expense of farmland that's feeding herds in our community, at the expense of our taxpayers, and at the expense of public trust, which has already been eroded. Upholding fairness and accountability and balance in siting decisions is essential if renewable energy is to remain a credible and equitable source of energy across our state. I want to thank the council for their time and for your continued commitment to transparency and responsible decision making. Thank you.